Hey everybody, and welcome to GMIHub Online. Today is Studio Talk. We're so glad that you're here to see us. I'm Cheryl Dewick, and this is
Daryl Dewick.
And we have with us some awesome people. Today, we are going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We have with us, and this is talking down the tech side, with all that's been going on with 2020, with COVID and all that. This has been the year where the tech has shined. And this is why we have two fabulous guys that are in the industry. But for me, on the top corner, we have Tyler Rodzart. I hope I said that right. Tyler is a tech director. He is actually just an AV professional. 10 years plus in the industry. He's a full-time project manager for FMAV. He's as a tech director for Bethel Pentecostal. Let's welcome Tyler. You might have to unmute yourself to say hello.
Hello.
Hi, Tyler. And no stranger to GMIHub, we have Randy Hitz all the way from New York City. He is a producer, bass player. He specializes in sound recording, audio mixing, sound and video installation. He's been busy doing a lot of AV tech on the residential side as well. So welcome, Randy.
Good evening, everybody.
It's been quite the year this year. I guess this is a recap for the tech side of things. And one word we can say is COVID. Let's ask, how has that affected you this year we could say with the personal, because I know there's a lot of people who've gone through depression and are fighting through that and are coming through that and would step into the Christmas season. And then how has that affected you with your work and your business life and the toys you're playing with? Tyler, do you want to take it away? It's 4 questions in one.
Sure. So come March of this year, I actually had a full hit the brakes lifestyle change. Which a lot of people don't realize when you travel as often as a professional in our industry, waking up the next morning and going, all your plane tickets are canceled, everything's done, you don't have work, stay home. That was a big 360. Also a blessing in disguise. I wanted to spend more time at home with the kids this year and not be on the road as much. So I really can't complain there. I got a really nice 6-month weekend, as we've been calling it. Christmas has changed. A lot of stuff has gone pre-recorded, especially in the House of Worship market and at our church. Other than that, there's not really much else.
And Randy, how about yourself?
Okay. So everything shut down for me. Now, the funny thing is I did the installation for the sound and light system and projection system at my church years ago. We also did a building expansion. It's about 11 years, maybe 12 years now. So I was in charge of all of that. Now, for years, I've been begging and pleading, we got to start streaming our services. We got to start doing this and that. It's not in the budget. We don't really have it. It's not a priority. Well, I'm going to put a shout out to my friend Dan Norton Films, who has been in my church, and I've known him since he was literally in high school. We went from nothing. We would record our audio sermons to podcast every week. Have been doing that for years. We went from literally nothing to full swing stream in 1 week. And we're running an analog board at our church still. We're not running a digital desk. I've got an Allen and Heath 40x8 in the booth. And basically for the first 2 months or so, it was just sermon. We did the Easter thing. I actually pre-recorded me playing Amazing Grace on classical guitar. And I did a pre-record because it was just going to be too hard to do it live at the time, because I was running the audio pre-production behind the scenes of the stream. Dan was doing all the film side of everything. I was doing the audio side to keep everything up and running. We have been up every week without fail, which is a miracle. We ran into we had some growing pains as far as merging. Once the Praise team came back into play, that was when things got really crazy, because I had an old, they'll put a smile on some people's faces here. I had an original 1602 Mackie mixer. That was my first mixer of the sound company that I had put together when I moved back to New York, back in the, I guess it was the latter 80, it was like early 90, maybe 90 or so. That mixer had been sitting in a rack in the back of my church closet utility behind our sound booth for years, because I was going to use it as a production mixer for streaming before digital all came out. Well, I had to pull that thing out of the mothballs. It was filled with dust. Got out the old Pro Gold spray and just went to town on every contact and every fader and to get it running, and it fired up miraculously. It's not built like the new Mackies. It was actually built well, but it ran. Now the problems we were having was we don't have enough team members to run the mix. That's the problem. Each week we don't have enough sound and volunteers. There's no pay here, and there's not enough trained people to get everything. So I had to dial in week after week, and I was using earbuds and playing back the broadcast. We would do the 9:30 and the 11:15, and I'd sit at the 9:30 and go, after we got off stage, go in the back room, listen. Oh, okay, the bass is too hot. This is too hot, because I'm using a Focusrite Scarlett interface to stream out, but because it's the actual, what is this again? The direct monitoring is in mono on these things, so you don't get a true sense of what the mix is going out live. So I'd have to listen back in a rewind the live stream and listen to what was going on in order to make sure everything was mixing well. For a while, it was extremely painful. It was just like a week in, a week out. And then of course, I'm also playing bass. I'm mixing the services, I'm running the lights, and I'm integrating and we moved on from Pro Presenter. I don't know whether anybody had been using that for years. We went on to a new program called Proclaim for your graphics, our producer, Dan, is using Ndi. I don't know whether you know what that is. It's an Ndi streamer to stream everything and merge and bring everything down into so our Pro Presenter, our graphics person, would literally just do that, and everything would show up in quadrants on the broadcast, and everything became very seamless. But I'll tell you, I'm using we have 3 camera shot from the back of the room. I've got my Canon Mark III, 5D Mark III, and we have a couple other and we're making, my pastor's father lives in the Midwest. He's a pastor too. He's like, I watch you guys every week. I'm so jealous. It's so professional. It's like, but you see, we're doing something a lot of churches are not doing. We are not pre-recording our praise music. We're going live with everything. So, and for the most part, it's been pretty good. And it hasn't been Hillsong good, but if you ever go to Crossbridge Church NY, if you look up some of the sermon, check out the streams. It actually, it worked out really well. That has been probably one of the hardest things I had to deal with in this year on the professional side. We lost a couple of people to COVID. On the personal side, my son's former girlfriend was a type 1 diabetic, and she was only 30. She just died about a month ago. She either had she got COVID and either had a seizure or something. I don't know. She was alone because everybody was isolating because she got COVID. And that was a horror, that was the hard thing. And we lost a couple other, client friends, lost some friends. My son got it, but he got over it. But it's been a blessing in a lot of ways. we spent a lot of time. My wife and I have had a lot of times with our time with our grandson that we wouldn't have. She has a job that she'd been getting paid the whole time and never lost a day's pay, but she wasn't working. She works for a town job, and she's been able to literally babysit my grandson for weeks on end. So he's actually been living here more than he's been living in his own house. But it's been good. It's been up and down. There's more technical stuff that I can get into later, but I don't want to hog up the whole show. But that's why I did this before I started.
Well, you actually made a statement. I think I'll jump on that one. One of the questions that we were going to ask is a piece of software that came out. What is the new piece of software that you love or you can't live without? I know you were talking about this new presenter.
It's Proclaim. That's really been really good because the way it transitions and it does its work. It's also apparently, now I don't know because I'm not doing the pro, like the pro presenter type side of everything, but I don't know whether Tyler may be able to confirm this or not, but I think it's a lot less CPU intensive compared to what pro presenter was really becoming like a real choke on computers. It was becoming a real problem apparently, and it was like we were having problems with the iMacs were locking up at times. But they said that the Proclaim stuff is very smooth. Also, there's a device that if at one point I'll give you a link to it because it's a HDMI to USB dongle. Now a lot of them were very expensive. There's a new one that my Dan, the video producer, found that's very reasonable, and I think he got it on B&H photo, and that was a big game changer for us because we're using the USB out of these cameras, out of these DSLRs, and you got to convert them to HDMI for the streams and stuff. So those two things, and then I'm sorry, I wish I remembered the program he's been using for the video, for the streaming, but it's been very, very fluid. In fact, while we're talking and while Tyler's talking, I'll text him and see if I can get that info for you. But it's been invaluable. The stuff he learned was crazy.
Go for it, Tyler.
So software. I think the one piece now that I carry on a USB key stick on my keychain would be Nutex NDI tools.
Oh, gee whiz. Yes.
That might be it. That might be part of it. Yeah.
I can't live without NDI. Build your network right, follow their specs, and it works amazingly. At the office and both at church, most of our mid-range control rooms run nothing but NDI for signal flow. There's not a single piece of SDI cable to go in and out of our streaming devices. Other piece of software I can't live without would be Vmix. I don't know what they did in their algorithms, but the way it encodes, it uses so little bandwidth. It's actually like quite incredible what you can do. We were able to do a total of 12 Zoom calls at full HD plus 2 full HD Vmix streams and transporting NDI around on our network on just a gigabit network with a 50 meg enterprise grade internet connection, which I think 3 years ago would be unheard of. January, it definitely was unheard of. The bandwidth you needed to stream was up there, and I don't know what the guys did in version 23, but it just works so well. And it replaced so much physical gear that we're down to running 8 computers in a studio at FMAV now, and I run 3 at church tops for our streaming platform.
So with the NDI, what are you using to switch that then? Is it a Vmix? You're going everything in with Vmix?
So everything for us goes in Vmix and then out to the web. There are a couple little tools in between that I use. A group called Zen Video. They produce a NDI Matrix Switcher that can also be used as a 2-channel switcher if you set it up right, that we use. It is free. They have a donate button on their webpage, and if you use their tools and like their tools, I highly suggest you donate. But yeah, NDI sources all into Vmix. Some stuff passes through the Matrix Switcher for switching feeds back to Zoom or confidence monitors. And then I can't remember the exact name of it. I'll just dig through my files here in a second. I run a piece of software on a Raspberry Pi 4 that actually gives me a NDI output to HDMI. And building it that way is about $500 cheaper than buying Magewell boxes or Bird Dog, and maybe a little less than 500 than Bird Dogs or other devices to get NDI out for things like multi-views, confidence monitors, returns for cameras. So
I got the information.
Go for it.
So Tyler might be. We're using Ecamm for producing.
Okay.
And then we're restreaming to multicast. We're using Restream for the multicast to Facebook and YouTube. Cam Link is the capture card to send video from the camera to the computer. So it's a Cam Link. So that was what it was. But yeah, we're not full production. We like I said, we came out of nowhere and just did this. So that's what we've been doing. So, and it's been working for him. So I don't know, but those have been, I'll tell you, to have no downtime. Now I'm doing it to myself because I'm saying this here. Every week has worked. Praise God on the broadcast. And we don't, I think we're hardwired. By the way, anybody who's doing any of this stuff, do not Wi-Fi anything, please. You hardwire every device, every laptop, everything. Never go Wi-Fi. I'm sure Tyler could agree with me on that one.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people are making that big mistake too. They're running a Fios router, and it's not even a commercial account. I think the church is running 250 over 250, maybe. That's it. It's not the network. I didn't do the network. I wanted to do the network, but my pot is quite large already. But our network is not even close to an enterprise network at all. And we've made it. It's worked. So I should hit my knees again.
Well, I know for myself, I've actually finally, after probably 12 years, I finally dug back into, I didn't say finally dug back into, I was forced into editing. Thank you, Cheryl. So I haven't edited in years, so I downloaded a few free programs to try and work with my $250 laptop, and I ended up sticking with the Blackmagic DaVinci. And for what it can do with my laptop, I'm ecstatic with it. So we're telling the people on our team, we're working on them to all download it so that if we have to pass files back and forth, it's PC based. You can also run it on Mac. So now it's all cross workable. So that's wonderful for me. Now it's like, you can take the files and edit. So we'll continue on. So piece of hardware that you can't live without.
Stream Deck.
Stream Deck.
I can't live without my Stream Deck. I think I own like 2 XLs, 3 minis, and 4 of the regular size ones.
Okay. I'm going to interrupt you here.
Yeah.
Some people might not know what a Stream Deck is. You want to explain that?
Sure. So it's a programmable keyboard, and the backing of the keys is an LCD screen. I run it with a piece of software called Companion, which lets me tie into Vmix, in a very roundabout way, Zoom. What else do we tie it into? Playback Pro. You can tie it into pretty much anything you can fire HTML commands at, or TCP/IP. And it's basically a show go now button if you program it correctly. When you're one person running multiple platforms, running a Stream Deck and Companion puts all your controls right at your fingertips. Good example of this is we don't actually play back video with inside of Vmix because of the number of encode and decode channels you need to use in a graphics card. So I use Playback Pro, and when I want to fire a video, I have one button press that says, go this video on Playback Pro and take this input on Vmix. So now I've done 2 button presses with 1 button.
That's awesome. Okay. Randy,
Mhm.
piece of hardware you can't live without.
Believe it or not, with our video side of everything, our cameras. My Canon, these cameras, I mean, you can get web-based cameras. I'm sorry, I'm doing multiple things at once here, but you can get web-based cameras and all that stuff, but the resolution, you know, the look is just, and we've been using our DSLRs, and it's just like, I mean, the video quality, you know, even though we're still running 1080 because the stream, we can't go stream rate 4K. It's just, you know, we don't have that kind of hardware to handle that. And besides, my 5D is not 4K. It's a Mark III. It's not a Mark IV. So, in 1080 for what you know, for what we're doing, we're not Hillsong. You know, we're not. You know, I mean, like I said, if you ever look at any of our broadcasts, they look fun. It looks fine for what it is. It's okay. I've watched our broadcasts on my TV, and I have an OLED in my living room, so that thing's pretty accurate, you know, and it looks pretty good. The only times you're running into problems is if you're in low light. You start to pick up, you know, because of the stream, you start to pick up noise and that stuff, which comes to be expected with that. But let me see, what other things?
What about in your studio? Something that you can't live without.
Something I can't live without. That's pretty.
You gotta live with everything that I see there, right?
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. Well, you know, you were talking about something you were going to ask about mistakes that were made.
Oh, yep.
In equipment. And I'll tell you one thing. One thing I've learned now, if you look over my shoulder here, down below, those are all Pro Tools with the PCI cards. Everybody went Thunderbolt crazy when Thunderbolt came out. And that was the new thing. And everybody was unloading these chassis. Now this rig right here would have cost you $25,000, maybe 6-7 years ago. It was state of the art. If you look up in the rig, you'll see there's an ensemble up there, an Apogee ensemble. I had a couple of USB type and FireWire type interfaces, and I had to fight to get the mixes the way I needed, the way I wanted them. It was never, the resolution was never good with those. When I went back to a Pro Tools type of head, and even though this is not state of the art now, you're fighting things so much less when you're trying to record and when you're getting into post. You're not having to retrack, and it's just so much easier when you have good solid hardware. When I'm recording, I don't do in the box so much when I'm tracking. It's a garbage in, garbage out type of mentality. I use 2 preamps when I track into my console. When I'm tracking to my DAW, I mean. I've just heard the difference of going, a lot of people go straight into the machine, into the computer, and we fix it later. It just sounds so much better, and it's so much easier to work with when you have real good hardware going into your computer. So those preamps, that is a Presonus up there, that black one with the 2 meters right there. People look, Presonus? This was Anthony Di Maria that had built them. These things are it's like a big hidden secret. Those preamps are as good as anything I've ever seen in a studio. And you can get that 2-channel, it's a military grade 2-channel 2 preamplifier That sounds amazing. That thing, you can find them on eBay for $1,000. That, if out of all this, other than the Pultex, which, we don't even have to know there, that piece right there is probably the most valuable piece of equipment I have. And not a lot of people know about them. If you're starting a studio and you're looking for a rock solid preamp, I would get one of those any day of the week. They have also a channel strip version of it where it's a preamp, one channel, pre and compressor. I've never dealt with that one, but I heard pretty good things about it. But that thing is rock solid and it sounds amazing. So
okay, so the lesson learned was buy the PreSonus preamp.
I would buy an ADL 600 if you could get a hold of one. And I think they still make them. I'm not sure. But I mean, it's not new. The thing goes for like $2,400, but you can find them around used in great shape. And it's because it doesn't have Neve on it. It doesn't have this on it, that people don't take them seriously. Now, PreSonus makes a lot of stuff too. Let's not be, kidding ourselves. But that piece was not designed by PreSonus. Anthony G. Maria, if you've ever seen any of the stuff he builds, it's insane. That thing is a diamond in the rough, that piece right there. I would get that, and I would get a good compressor. That right down there is by a company called JDK. It's a sister company to API. That is $1,100 for 2 channels of compression, and it's a great compressor. If you want to get a nice little head unit to start off your studio with, those 2 units will take you a long way. It's a very, very great workhorse combination.
Okay. So Randy swapped it to lessons learned this year. Randy's was to buy some great head-end gear. What would your lesson be for this year?
My lesson for this year would be redundancies and put things on a battery backup.
Amen, brother.
A $50 battery backup will save you $10,000 down the road in bill backs to your clients.
He's gonna say that, and I'm gonna do this real quick. I want to show you something.
Yeah,
there is a battery backup right
there. You
there.
go. You don't have to go that extreme, but
there are hard drives. You see those big glyph hard drives over there?
Yeah.
He knows what he speaks of.
Having backups and redundant copies of things is very key.
Backup frequently.
Not everybody can have a redundant internet connection. Actually, you can have a redundant internet connection. Here's a redundant internet connection right here on my iPhone. It's very simple.
Hotspot yourself.
But yeah, backing up all your data, battery backups, redundant internet, definitely lessons learned this year. Wouldn't have thought of it otherwise. Like on my media servers, I always run battery backups because when those things turn off, they're a pain in the butt to get to come back on and connected. I've never backed up an audio console before. We did that this year.
Now, do you saying you had a second one, or you just went and saved all your files?
Both.
Wow.
Well, I agree with, and I jump in on this because I don't deal with too many digital desks, but I've been hearing a lot of horror stories about consoles going down in the middle, especially in the middle of services, and all your files and all your screenshots and your scene layouts, man, have that thing just go off the factory. It's like, because you got weeks and weeks of production work that goes in to setting those up and getting them right. My brain hurts just thinking about having to do that over again.
I had an LS916 this year completely die out on me. I've had a bunch of QU16s factory reset and do some other funny stuff. I lost a digital console to lightning this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and every Sunday morning I walk into church and think, will our console turn on? We're currently running an M7CL that was purchased about 12 years ago. So
that's why you had the Digico in the church the other day.
Maybe.
Was I not supposed to say that?
We're in the process of evaluating, and maybe going through a console upgrade, depending if the board likes the price that I got the other day.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I mean, I've got a Midas desk still, an analog Midas desk that I still use for my live stuff. I can't get away from it. I'm sorry. I fire that thing up. It fires up. I turn a knob. It works. And it sounds great. And I know I'm being old school about this, but it's like the horror show of thinking of an electronic device on a Sunday morning that you rely everything on just going it makes me nervous beyond words, and I've heard
and something scary. So I've always booked the Digicos and made arrangements to have them on our job sites. I've never run one before. Like I know my way around the console if I have to jump in and help troubleshoot, but I've never physically mixed on one. One of the scariest things I saw on the Digico was a button that said quit to Windows. And I don't know what Digico does. And this is a true testament to their product. But from everything I've seen and friends and actually big supporter of Digico, Jason Reynolds, who you guys have had on here before, good friend, and was so happy that I switched from a Yamaha guy to a Digico guy now. I don't know what they do, but that console ran so rock solid, sounded so good. We put our M7CL back in for just this past Sunday because the SD12 was a loaner from our local PA company, and our lead pastor actually walked up to me and said, I could hear the difference. Granted, 15-year-old console to console designed 2 years ago. Preamps are different. Consoles clocking at 96 kilohertz versus 48. The other really cool thing is they're still all British built. They're not manufactured in China, and it shows in their quality. The only time I've ever had an issue with a Digico showing up on site is we flew them from Kingston, Jamaica to Providenciales, Turks and Caicos, and through the airplane and it being bounced through cargo and people just not knowing what they were. We had the whole left-hand side of a console show up dead. We pulled 16 screws out of it, plugged all the ribbon cables back in, turned it on, and did a show. So
you guys ever remember the movie Ace Ventura: Pet Detective?
I actually have seen it.
The beginning of the movie?
I kid you not, the delivery guy was that, where the guy's driving from the airport to the job site was like him driving the Jeep through the jungle.
Well, when Ace Ventura was the UPS delivery guy at the beginning of the movie, he's kicking the box down the road, and I go through. People go, how come this is a brand new board? I paid all this money and it didn't work out of the box. I go, you know how it got to you?
Yeah.
Because
now
you'd be amazed at how much this stuff gets thrown around before it gets to the retailer.
We're blessed up in Ottawa here. Gare Audio, the distributor of Digico in Canada, is a 2-hour round trip from our location. So one of the reasons we're looking at them is because parts are a 2-hour round trip from our location. And the guys that run the local sound and lighting company, Wall Sound, they have a pile of Digico sitting around. So it's an easy swap out for us. Maybe
we should talk.
I'll take an analog desk. I'll take, like, when you said you pulled out the Mackie 1602, the only desk that I have tried to kill and can't kill is the 1604, the gray faced one, the original. I've pulled a.
Well, that's what it was. It's I think it's a 1604. I apologize.
Yeah, I have poured a full cup of coffee into one on a show live, flipped it upside down, drained it out, mixed on the console upside down, and kept going.
I mean, honestly, the things they had very limited bandwidth, but it's like treble, mid-range, and bass, and nothing else.
And you can't kill it.
It worked. I mean, that board had not been powered up in over 10 years. It was sitting at the bottom of a rack, sitting on the floor, which means it was getting dirt poured into it week after week. I pulled that thing out, blew it out with compressed air, and then just started running a whole bunch of tuner cleaner in it. And that thing fired up. I'm like, geez. I mean, it's crotchety, but still, come on. What do you know of, those kind, mixers that still do that anymore?
Okay,
None of them.
Let's go back to your Midas. Would your Midas do that if it sat around for 10 years?
Oh, heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Those Midas desks, man, they are built like tanks. Those things, I got news for you. When a lot of these digital consoles are gone, those Midas desks are still going to be running. Those things are ridiculous. And not for nothing, except for Noise Floor. Okay, of some of the digital domain stuff, those desks still sound better, I'm sorry, than the digital desks. It's just the preamps were built like if they were real preamps. It's just like when you go, I was, because I didn't have the money, I was dealing with Allen and Heaths forever. Their EQ sections are the preamps are not that great on them. They sound better than a Mackie, general, I was never a big analog Yamaha fan. I found them to be very harsh. Like, the 5000 series, the green ones. You guys remember those ones where the trim pot was in the reversed air. The trims were on the bottom instead of on the top, which always drove me crazy. But those desks were always brash and very, they were hard to mix on. I always found it. When you get on a Midas, you can leave, you're on a good desk when you can put a signal into a channel strip, turn up the gain, and it already sounds great without touching the EQ. That is a desk. Now, my Midas, and then when you start giving it EQ, it changes fast. Like, it's very little of anything will dramatically change the sound of that input. When I went over and finally because I got an analog Midas desk when everybody was dumping their analog desks, because I could get them for next to nothing. And I loved that console. Absolutely love it. And yeah, I guarantee if you shoved one of those in a closet and you brought it out in 10 years, yeah, it would fire right up.
So you don't need to do backup power supplies for that one then? Like a lot of
you do backup power supplies for any large format analog desk. You always do that because caps dry out, they swell with age. Yeah, that's the one thing that all the pros on tour would always do is they always keep, they keep power supplies because that's the one thing is going to fail on those desks. But that's normal. That's normal for anything.
So since we're picking on Midas, I know we're a little bit off topic here. I got to briefly touch, I think it was the XL, their flagship desk. They actually have an analog gain and a digital gain. So now you can play with the warmth and the frequency with, I guess, the sound. I haven't been able to really play with it, but you got the analog for getting that warmth and the tone, and the digital for getting...
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know XL because I've never been in front of one.
Okay.
But you're still, if it's a digital desk, right?
Yes.
If it's a digital desk, it's a digital desk. Everything is an in-the-box simulation of what used to be hardware. Remember that.
Digico does it. They call it tube. I think it's called tube drive.
It's a plug-in on a knob.
Yamaha's doing it on the new PM series. They call it Silk by Neve.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. So it's an emulator.
It's an emulator. It's not real.
I have taken an old Midas 3K that was headed for a dumpster.
Oh.
And
don't even say that.
The whole center section was dead on it. It was a parts desk, and we actually rescued 11 channel strips out of it and turned them into 1U rack mount units.
Nice.
And I will very often pull those out and run them on podium mics because they just sound so good. Even running into a digital desk, I'll just strip no EQ, no compression on the desk, just fire my podium mics through that, use the EQ on that, and away I go. They don't have the aux section on them anymore. It's just the preamp, the filters, and the EQ.
And they're great.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a homegrown learn electronics, learn how to solder project. But I got 10 really good preamps out of it.
That's a nice lunchbox, bub.
That I can't complain.
You know, it's funny. Yeah, I got a little story for you guys. This past weekend, we had our Christmas deal. So you'll laugh at this. I was running sound, running lights, and playing bass in the booth.
One-man show.
Our sound man was on call because he works for the highway department. We had a snowstorm down here, and he was on call. He couldn't come in. Everything for service, smooth as silk. We get through to the worship part of the second service. My pastor goes up and turns on his mic. I open his channel up, and all of a sudden everything goes and just starts to wail. And I'm like, we had a channel strip parametric for his lavalier, which I've always, because I don't, you know, the onboard console EQs are never good enough for for speech mics. It just it's not enough detail. Tyler can attest to that. The parametric went bad. It's in the middle of the signal chain with the compressor, with the DBX compressor, and it decided I'm gonna stop working now. So yeah, and the sermon starting, and I'm like, I'm sorry, Pastor. And his sermon was about waiting. The beginning of the sermon was about waiting. It was the funniest. So I'm scrambling. I bypass the thing and everything's how I bring the fader down and I'm like trying to run the EQ on the board and just to get him running. But yeah, that's funny. You're talking about these channel strips. It's like, yeah, I got to get a new one this week. I completely forgot about that.
There you go. Just for you. Good thing you came on today.
I'll tell you, it's for when you're dealing with lavaliers and stuff in church services, getting good channel strips for the pastoral microphones it's a must. It's just because you can't get out of the desk what you need for those voices to be really smooth.
What do you think of that, Tyler? Let's see if is this controversial or not?
Oh, I agree. In the digital world, my channel strip for my pastor is just slathered in Waves plugins. On top of that, I also use a hardware unit. I have a Neve primary source enhancer, and it's the first thing in my signal chain. And it's also the last thing in my signal chain as well, because they're dual channel, and they clean up the sound so much. Because that's the one thing a lot of people now I'm finding are overlooking when doing broadcast is you need clean audio. It doesn't have to be overly loud audio. You just need clean audio, because most people aren't watching on a home theater system or a good pair of speakers. They're watching on their iPhone, their iPad, their laptop speakers, the speakers that come in the back of their $500 TV. The clean audio, I think, is like the one thing that I've been looking for with speech rather than volume.
It's got to be clean. It's got to be full toned, but it's also, you're dealing with the combination of trying to get a good solid equalization of a voice and control the feedback of a lavalier or a headset. And that's the key things. It's a two-phase issue that you're dealing with there. And one thing I can also throw onto this, a lot of people have a tendency to crank the trim up on a speech microphone to get your normal signal like you would when you get an instrument. That is the worst thing you can do. You actually trim a lav lower, equalize it to where it's really just giving you grazed signal on your board. Don't push it, and equalize it accordingly to get it to sound full, and you'll have less feedback problems, and it'll be able to smooth. And also always throw a compressor on a speech mic, on a lavalier, because especially if you're going to broadcast, you want to have that as controlled as you can. production board or the Mackie board on the back end, on the left and right output, I have a DBX 166 stereo compressor on the back end of that board before it goes out to broadcast. And I'm squashing it about 2-to-1 lightly, but I'm squashing it a bit just to keep the broadcast from overloading.
Okay, let me jump here to another question. What is a piece of gear that you would like to have? I'll go to Tyler for work and for your church.
For church piece of gear, I would love to have Digico SD12. No, that's
So are we all.
And honestly, more of a realistic piece of gear I'd love to have. I would say probably a really good headset microphone at church. Something like if we could get into on the higher end DPA. But you know what? I've had really, really, really good successes with the Apex 575. It's not expensive. It's very affordable. You get great gain before feedback, and they just sound great. And you can buy them, at just about any online big box music store. They're sub $200, and you can beat them up as well. Piece of gear I'd love for work. It's kind of hard because at work we kind of have all the toys.
Okay, well, something to make your life easier then.
Something to make my life easier.
Couple more sound men.
What?
That or I'd love for Zoom to build NDI integration right into their software.
Ooh.
That'd be good.
Oh, that would be good.
Like it's one feature that Teams has running if you're running enterprise. Skype is doing it for Skype for creators. Zoom is really lacking on it. If I could have anything, it would be NDI integration for Zoom. And actually, that goes both ways. That goes both for the church side of things and for the work side of things. It would just make exporting individual callers much more efficient and much more cost effective because you wouldn't have to have a single computer per caller that you need. Yeah. I would even pay extra for it.
I was just going to say, so Zoom, hear this, because people would pay for that.
Like hands down, if you want to, like the enterprise grade or the pro grade accounts, you want to put that in as a paid feature, I will pay extra for that feature just to pay for the time for your developers to integrate it.
Yeah.
Don't kid yourself, they're probably working on it.
Oh,
anything to make money.
If you read the Zoom forums, everybody's asking for it, but they're about 6 months behind the game on it.
Well, they also grew in leaps and bounds like they would never have expected because of this. So they probably have been just playing catch up to begin with, I mean, let's face it, they went from nothing to everything, in 7-8 months. So me personally, were you still talking, Tyler? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
I'm sorry, the caffeine's starting to kick in here. Honestly, we're gonna have to transfer over and get ourselves a digital desk, and we don't have a budget. We're not a big church. The biggest thing for my church environment would to be able to find a pretty rock solid mid-level digital desk, because like the X32s and the M32s and all that stuff in that lower end, like the M32's got decent sound to it, but the thing that I'm just so worried about is the stability of the hardware. So, and
2 years to get a power supply off of a stage head.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Taking them 2 years to get me a power supply for my stage head.
It's
frustrating.
That's the one reason why we haven't jumped, because I know I got to be very responsible with, we just voted in our new pastor. He's a great guy. And I'm responsible for making sure that the money that we spend is money smartly spent. And we don't have a big budget. We're not that, I've donated, there's a lot of my personal gear in my church because we just didn't have the purse for it. Ironically, I we had to get some in-ears because it was getting to the point. We actually went over to electronic drums. Our sanctuary is a gymatorium and it's not treated. And when they built the building, I was like, originally it was supposed to be a sanctuary. And then they changed the plans with my former pastor to make it a gymatorium. I'm like, no. 28-foot ceilings, steel girder rafters, cinder block walls, linoleum floors. And our praise and worship was always a problem with the drums just pouring into the room. Even with the gobo, we couldn't build the drum trap room because it wasn't logistically set up to do that there. And so we went over to complete ISO. And I picked up some in-ears very inexpensively. And I'll tell you guys up there because I don't know whether I'm not sure I can't remember what the model number is, but going direct helped us a lot with everything. I also have a bass. I don't know anybody who's really into being bass players, but there's a company called Two Notes that built a bass preamp, a tube bass pre that's on the floor. It's a pretty good sized footprint, but it's not that bad. That thing is sonically got the best sound. And I've been a bass player my whole life pretty much. And it's all direct. It's not going into an amp at all. It's got the best sound output on a direct for bass I've ever heard. The bandwidth is it's just called, it's a Two Notes. I forgot the actual model of the bass DI, but if you look it up, that honestly is really a beautiful thing. If bass players are trying to get themselves into a more direct signal line, that's a must have. The thing is amazing. What I would personally love to have, a Telefunken U47. No, honestly, I've got everything I need, really.
So you don't need any software upgrades? No.
I'm going to need a computer upgrade. I'm probably, I'm going to have to bite the bullet. And believe me, I'm not going to be able to go anything new because I'm still running PCI. But I mean, I've never showed you around this, but that is my guitar rig over there. That's two Hughes & Kettner Grandmeister 40s. That's the pedal board for that. I've got a beautiful, I got my U87. And by the way, our dear friend, Matt McGlynn, the microphone up there is a Telefunken 251 clone. The Telefunken tube mic, Matt built one for me.
Nice.
And honestly, for the money, it's a really nice mic. Like I said, I'm going to need a new computer. For the most part, I've got everything I need, but having a solid desk for the church is really honestly the only thing, I don't know when they're going to come up with something that's going to be solid, but it's all this.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line, you get what you pay for. And that was the same thing with the recording equipment. You can cheapen out and you can get some results, but you're going to have problems. Things are going to fail and they're not going to run the way you want them to run if you can't afford to throw the money at it. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Okay. So I'm going to pick on Cheryl. She's been quiet almost right from the get-go.
I have been, because you know what? This has been the guys talking, and I'm just letting you guys just do your
She's
thing.
there on her phone, typing away.
Do you believe how much this guy's talking over here? He won't shut up.
Not ignoring, just spreading the word that this conversation's been really, really good. I mean, wow. I mean, I'll be honest with you. A lot of the tech conversation goes way over my head, but that's okay. You know what? For our viewers, you've been listening to this conversation about basically some hardware, software, lessons learned, life within, I won't say without COVID, but, but what COVID has really done to this, I guess, just change our outlook on what works and what doesn't work and what could work better. and companies have already been hinted at. You know, Zoom has I think skyrocketed with everything that they've had to adjust to, because everyone's a lot using their services, including us. And there's yet so much more that they can build on. So Zoom, if you're watching, you can talk to us at GMIHub for some extra hints on how you can improve your services. But viewers, if you're watching, everyone's been, I guess, like me, just listening.
I want to actually ask Cheryl a question. What have you learned this year?
I've learned to stay quiet when I don't know anything. Actually, what have I learned this year? I have learned, let's see, make sure that my mic is on. I've learned how to deal with dual things playing at the same time, and learning what causes an echo, what doesn't cause an echo. I am learning about how to manage even just working with Zoom and going live and everything related to that. And you know, this has been from a perspective of a non-tech person, it's been quite a learning curve for someone like myself, who's more or less an artist and a co-host. It's been quite a learning curve. And to be honest with you, I appreciate Studio Talk so much, because to be honest with you, this is where I learn, you know, outside of, you know, when we're off air and I get tech lessons from this guy, you know, but I have learned quite a lot. I am editing system. I'm just learning about, I forgot the name of it. DaVinci. I'm just learning about DaVinci and about the editing process. I have very, very, very basic knowledge of that kind of thing. It is, like I said, it's just been a huge, huge learning curve, and still more to come. There's still more to come, still more we're looking forward to. From I'll say an end user viewpoint, there's a lot of things I'd like to see, at least for us and for our show. And I know it's coming. I know it's coming. So lots of good things to look forward to in 2021. That's all I can say about that.
Can I mention something I learned?
Sure.
Absolutely has nothing to do with the show, but it's not a tech piece of gear, but it's a piece that all the techs use. I was outside doing a show, it was freezing, and we were trying to tape a sign onto a podium, and gaff tape does not work when it's cold. But if you throw it into the microwave for about 20 seconds, it softens up enough, it will stick to the podium.
You know, I've been doing this a long time, dude. Honestly, that's a good one, and I've never even thought of it. That's, you know, what's even worse is when you're trying to open up wire mic cables and extension cords when it's sub-zero out, when you're doing a Christmas tree lighting ceremony or anything else, and everything's like stiff as a board. I guess maybe I should just bring a heat gun or a blow dryer with me. That was funny though.
I have visions now, Randy. I just have visions now. You bring a blowtorch and go, okay, if it doesn't work, here it goes. You know?
That's the old line. It's like, if it doesn't work, get duct tape or baling wire.
But yeah, it doesn't work when it's frozen. So
that's funny.
Tyler, I have a feeling when you do outdoor gigs, you will be sticking a microwave in the pack for that. The microwaves, the gaff tape board.
At least
either that or carpet tape.
Does that work below zero?
I use carpet tape all the time to stick signs to podiums.
Okay.
Well, gaffers
works outside. But
gaffers is different than duct. Does gaffers still have any problems with the cold?
Yeah.
In my version of cold, it does when you're.
Yeah, well, you guys are way up there.
My up in Ottawa here versus where Daryl is in Toronto, we are two very different versions of cold.
It's 5.5 hours away.
Daryl could have a nice balmy minus like 5 degrees below freezing day for those American people, and we'll be experiencing a cold snap of 30 below.
Bolt snapping weather. Is that what you
No, cold. I called it a cold snap, or it could also be called a character building experience.
It's so cold your face hurts, Randy.
I mean, I really like cold, but that cold, man, I'm getting too old. Nah, I don't. I'll pass on that one. Thank you.
Some days the car starts, but it won't drive because the transmission gets gelled up.
Oh, that's awesome.
If I forget to plug the car in.
That I can't even. Yeah, because I mean, a friend of mine lives up north in the United States, and he's up in the mountains, so it'll get 10 below. He says, yeah, it's really cool when you start to see steel like snap.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, it's like, wow, it's that cold.
Yes.
You know. We break the most podium mics doing outdoor pressers in the winter. The goosenecks just get too cold, and right where they join the base on the XLR,
snap.
It just the metal breaks away right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, the things to be grateful for. I'm not in Ottawa. I'm not. Oh, let me rephrase that. I'm not mixing sound in Ottawa.
Well,
God bless you, man.
Here's a quick question I can ask, which is, based on everything that you have learned, hardware, software, lessons learned, what 3 tips would you give people in preparation for 2021, making the assumption that things might be the same as it is now, at least to start, and yet may change gradually? Any 3 tips?
Work out.
Work out.
We're all soft. I honestly don't, you know, you can't prepare for what you don't know is going to happen. I mean, anybody who's worth their salt in the engineering world is going to know what they got to do once the gears kick in and everything starts moving again. But I mean, you know, you might be doing driving concerts. I guess make sure your generators are working.
Full of gas.
I don't know. I mean, how do you prep for that? You don't, because look at what this year did to us. Everybody had to completely reinvent the wheel. And honestly, I'm grateful that let's see if you guys can relate to this. I'm grateful that people started to figure out how to do video production on the streaming for concerts, because in the beginning, man, it was just brutal. I mean, even the pros were coming up with the worst video and audio. It was like, oh, guys, do you see what you're making? So yeah, if nothing else, we learned how to broadcast better as the year went on. I don't know whether anybody else agrees with me on that or not, but I'm anal when it comes to stuff like that. I mean, I saw some pretty horrendous stuff this year.
But could things still be improved?
Oh, always can.
Yeah.
Always can. But that's also going to require bandwidth, infrastructure to handle that kind of load. When you start trying to get into the broadcast quality that everybody's become so acquainted with, you know, the resolution being what it is, to get the streaming to that level is going to require wide scale infrastructure change as far as the internet is concerned. Because the way we are now, we don't have the hardware and the infrastructure in place to handle that kind of load. Especially, I'll give you an example. Any given Sunday, when everybody first started streaming their services, any given Sunday, YouTube, all of Facebook, all of them were literally tanking in the middle of services because they couldn't handle the bandwidth load of all the people using the platforms. If you notice, as the year went on, that stuff slowly but surely started to go away because these guys were starting to build up the back end of their servers and the systems because they realized the load was just insane. And infrastructure like Long Island, they're pulling fiber everywhere right now because we're still on like 40-year-old copper in a lot of places. You know, you can't handle the load of the network load on that kind of infrastructure. It just don't work. So we'll see what happens.
So the everyday person like myself just has to wait and see what happens, and
None of us know. I mean,
so-
Tyler, you agree?
I agree. And I think moving forwards into 2021, if I had to give a tip to anybody, it would be really sit down, and this is taking a whole different direction change from the tech, really sit down and look at what you want your end user experience to be. Because great, we can have all this technology. We can shove all this technology down the throats of our users.
Mhm.
But if we don't build an experience on the other end, nobody's going to
worth
want to
watching.
come back.
It's worth watching and listening. Yeah.
The greatest example of this is I relate it back to coffee, because coffee is something everybody can understand and most people drink, especially if you're in AV tech. The blacker, the better.
I live on coffee.
I go to a Tim Hortons or a Dunkin' Donuts and get my cup of coffee in the morning, and it costs me what, $2 at most for an extra large. I go to Starbucks, get a slightly better cup of coffee for 3 times more the price, but I'm not just buying a cup of coffee at that point. I'm buying an experience.
Mm.
And that experience is what keeps me coming back.
Mhm.
Taking it one more step further, being overseas and traveling, I've sat in cafes where I've paid $7 just to be able to sit down and $13 for a cup of coffee. But again, you're not buying coffee at that point. You're buying an experience. You're paying for the price to sit in an old square and sip on probably one of the best cups of espresso I've ever had, mind you. But if we don't build that user experience, we're going to lose viewership. We're going to lose our attendees coming into church in the morning. We're going to lose our audience, whether it be for a paid for show or a free show on YouTube, because it's not, people walk away with things like tips and tricks from content, but what they really walk away talking about, and what I would refer to as their exit behavior, is their experience. And based on that experience, they're going to go out and tell other people about it, and then those people are wanting to come and experience the experience, and then go tell more people, and you will just naturally grow.
Can I piggyback on that, Tyler?
Absolutely.
As people who are in the business of bringing Christ to other people's lives, it's not marketing. It's life and death. If we're bringing a product forward that people are going to look at it for 5 minutes and go, oh, I can't understand what he's saying. I can't see it. It doesn't make any sense, or it's breaking up. You're going to lose people, because unfortunately we're in a mindset, a microwave mentality in our world today. Everything is done in 30 seconds. And if it isn't, I'm moving on. The message of the gospel, what I'm doing, everything I'm doing with my recording, and we do it with the stream at our church, needs to be brought forth in the best possible way to reach the most people possible. If you're not doing that, you're not succeeding in ministry. Clear and concise comes from the pulpit, but also it comes from making sure that everybody who sees it clear and concise.
And to go with that, I'll flip it to the other side of the production, which you were just talking about, the people receiving it. How about the people who are putting it on? How much time have we invested into our volunteer teams and the people who are paid on staff who are making that all work? Because you keep going, like I've heard, you've actually said yourself, and same with Tyler's, trying to find volunteers, and then trying to get them training, and then trying getting them up to speed that is a good broadcast. Are we spending the time as the leaders with our people and telling the pastoral staff, no, we need to wait till they're themselves are ready, or we have to be ready not to be competing against the Elevations, the Hillsongs, and all those going, but we're investing in our people because it's the people, whether it goes online or not, is what's going to matter in the future.
Well, to be honest with you, you need to make sure that what's being spoken from the public pulpit is true.
Correct.
And accurate. You start there.
Yes.
Everything else doesn't matter if that isn't correct. Then once you get that done, our church is very tough because it's like it's New York. Everybody's working and barely trying to survive right now. Everybody has limited time. Yeah, there's been a lot of shutdown, but there's a lot of people who are afraid to come out. There's a lot of people, we don't have paid. The only people that get paid in my church are the pastor and the secretary and the treasurer. That's it. I've been working for my church since 96, 98. I've gotten a couple of offerings, which is fine. I'm not asking for money. That's not what I'm, but I've only got a couple of, offerings of gratitude and thank yous for my job, which is beautiful. I appreciate that. If I was in it for the money, I wouldn't be in it because that's not why I came here. God gave me a lot of talent many years ago before I got saved. That he said, you've got to apply that to moving forward. As far as training people, honestly, sadly, when you're in a smaller church, it's very, very difficult to find people, who have my ears. Because honestly, the ears and the eyes are the biggest factor into making somebody a good person behind the scenes, a producer, an engineer. You can have no knowledge of a console. If you really can hear, you got 90% of the problem solved already because everything else is teachable. You can't teach this. So having the time isn't necessarily the problem. Having the people that have that talent from here up is.
This has been rich. This is rich.
It's sad. It's my reality. It really is.
Yeah.
And I'm the senior engineer in my church, and I'm really the only one who can really mix well in my church. The other guys they're fader pushers. They get by. They can do some of it, but they're really not. Like if there's something goes sideways and I'm behind the desk, I can have it nailed down and fixed within seconds. Nobody else can in my church. Now, it is what it is. That's my cross. So what? So be it. But it is my cross. Someday I'm going to have to train somebody, and God will provide that person, I'm sure, sooner or later. But that's it's a hard thing to find good engineers for churches. It's a real problem.
And you're not alone there. Like I'm the technical director at a very large church, especially for the standards in Canada. It is hard to find volunteers. Very hard. We have a large congregation. A lot of people, and I think with some of the issues is people are afraid. You give them the tour, they see all the tech and they go, oh, this is way more than I thought it was. I don't know how to, I don't know how to do this. Honestly, in my mind, the ideal volunteer is somebody who is punctual and shows up.
We won't go to that conversation. That'd be a whole hour in itself.
But beyond that is somebody who serves with patience and grace. Like it's teachable. And what I think where people get discouraged is you look at professionals or people who work in the professional space like ourselves versus your regular church volunteer. Something we have over them is time. And it doesn't matter how much money or anything you can throw at it. You cannot buy time, especially when church volunteers, there's only so many Sundays in a year. Actually, I think there's only like 38 Sundays in 2021 because I just built my 2021 service folder structure.
30?
Yeah.
There's 52 weeks in a year. How is there only 38 Sundays?
That's at least how it worked out in my folders. Maybe I missed a Sunday.
I'm just like, I mean, I was like, wait a minute, it doesn't add up to me, but hey, okay.
Sorry.
I'm not judging.
But yeah, so let's go back. So let's say there's only 52 Sundays in a year. You can only get so much time in on those Sundays. Yeah. And it's an average time a volunteer spends behind a piece of equipment on a Sunday is 2.5 to 3 hours.
That's right.
Whereas you look at volunteers that you have coming out of a professional space, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours behind our piece of gear. Mm-hmm. And the way I always look at it is I always like to think back to 17 and 18-year-old version of me being young and ambitious, running around going, I know nothing about this, but I want to know everything about this as fast as I can.
And those are the ones that you really should train, is our youth.
And absolutely, we're in the process. We are a current team of 9 people. It requires 12 people to run one of our services. So there's a lot of double dutying, triple dutying, because we don't want to burn people out right now. I'm the only position that serves every single Sunday. Everybody else serves on a 2-week rotation, just in case somebody got sick. We have some gapping in there. But we're in the process of building a youth team to run our youth services. Get them started there where it's low pressure, and then move them up to doing a Sunday morning where there's a bigger audience, bigger group of people you're reaching. But it doesn't change. It doesn't change from whether you're running the 3-person service or the 5,000-person service. Mm-hmm. It's all time. Like you can't teach time is the biggest thing I find. And if somebody has some way of speeding that up, I will pay millions of dollars for it to give some of my volunteers a break. But yeah, so for those listening, if you're new at it and you're struggling, don't worry. It all comes with time.
We've all done it. We've all struggled.
I'm starting
and
to
we've
train
all
a
screwed
couple
up bigger shows than you have.
No pressure. No pressure at all.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, this has been really, really rich. And I love what you guys shared about, that what you said, Randy, earlier. I was going to jump on that as like with the being messengers of the gospel, and those that are in that need to realize that it's not just about the message going out, but the message being received in a clear, concise way. And to add to what Tyler said, it's the experience. And I just loved what you said there, because I won't say too many churches, but I have heard that there are churches that have struggled with the concept of quote unquote production. Mm. They're afraid that if they do too much technical anything, too many lights, too many sound, too many microphones, too many whatever, they feel they're becoming too, like there's too much production. That's what they say. It's too much production. When in reality, it's actually what the audience, in a sense, expects. It's because that's what they're used to seeing. And not only that, what churches may see as a distraction is actually what audiences are saying, well, if there was that, then I'd be able to see you better, or I'd be able to hear you better. And if I know what's all there, great. Now I can focus on your message. Now I can hear what God is sending. So it's an interesting battle. So I'm so glad that you said what you said, because I have heard that has been an ongoing battle in churches. And I trust that if there are any church leaders that are watching this, that you have taken to heart what Randy has said. He's speaking from the purpose, from the heart of a servant who serves in the technical area, and whose basically main goal, if I can speak for all techs, if I'm in the wrong, I can, he'll stop me, but
we'll talk about it later.
Yeah. But if I can speak for all techs, the impression I get from all of you is you're there to serve. And your purpose is to, again, I'm going to take Tyler's words here. Your purpose is to build the experience around the message that God wants to present to people, to his people, through his servant that's in front of the camera, that's on the platform, that's delivering the message. Your goal is to remove the noise. Your goal is to make sure, in a sense, if I can use the analogy of is it curling, the ice thing?
Yes.
If I can use that, if the message is that rock that slides along on the ice, you guys are busy like sweeping everything, trying to make sure that everything gets through so that rock gets to where it needs to get to. And too often, I don't know if you all get the credit for that. So I will publicly say right here on GMIHub, thank you to all the techs that sweep the noise away so that the messages go forth.
Amen.
Whether it's a church service, whether it's another event, thank you for everything that you do and that you continue to do. To those that are volunteering, I appreciate that comment about the time. Some people are scared that they don't have enough time under their belt, and some people think if they can learn something lickety-slip, they'll know exactly what everyone else has learned over your 10,000 hours of time. But the reality is both for if I can say the mentor and the mentoree, is time and patience are important in order to get to the end goal. And again, I appreciate exactly what Tyler and Randy have said here today. So I hope, viewers, that you are watching this, that you got a lot out of this. I know I was quiet. Now I'm talking. So, it's my time now.
Takes you a long time to get started.
Honestly, real quickly,
Yeah.
if you're going to get into the ministry and you feel like you have a desire to do it, be patient with yourself.
Mhm.
You're not going to learn everything overnight.
Mhm.
I sure as heck did not do either. It took me, I didn't go to school for it. I learned it on the road, on the fly. Everything I've learned, I taught myself. Just remain malleable and pliable and cling yourself to people that you can see that are doing it right. You hear somebody that's mixing really good, suck that person for information and learn and you'll get it. If God put it in your path to be an engineer or a producer or anything, don't worry. He'll put the people in your path to make it happen.
Mhm. Great word there, Randy. So I know that we've actually almost gone an hour and a half. We probably could still keep going on this wonderful conversation, but I know that we
don't want to get in trouble with Randy's wife.
who has to go back and
You're not supposed to say.
so, we know that Christmas,
Oh, I'm in trouble now.
we know that Christmas is coming, and there's a lot of prep that has to happen for that. That's all I was gonna say.
Oh.
We love you, Randy.
But we are so thankful for those of you who have tuned in to watch here us on GMIHub, even for not just for tonight, but for all the Mondays that we have been online. We appreciate your support. And we're going to be back in the new year. We're going to take next week to just take a break and enjoy our families. And we want you to do the same. If for whatever reason I won't say you're sick of your family, but you need a break, feel free to come back to our channel and watch some of the episodes that we have aired since March, actually. There's a lot of good information, good conversations, great tips on songwriting, on legal stuff, on royalties, on tech stuff. There's so much great conversations that you can learn from. So feel free to visit our YouTube channel, watch the other ones. As some of you may already know, we have launched a Christmas album. For you, if you would like to get your copy on that, just go to gmihub.bandcamp.com, and you can certainly order your copy of that music or just listen to it as a stream while you're there. On top of that, we not only had the album, but we also, thanks to editing and a few other artists that have stepped up to do this, we've got a Christmas special. We've already premiered it, but it is available here on our channel. So feel free to look for the GMIHub Christmas special and just enjoy a half hour of music, videos, and just relax with the Christmas spirit that's involved in that. So thank you for all the artists that were involved with that. Thank you again for your support. We want you to have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. That's not only to all of our viewers, but to you, Tyler, and to you, Randy. Randy's got his Christmas hat going and it's flashing. It's ready. He's ready for Christmas. We'll see you in 2021.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas all.